Hi, I'm Don.
And hi, I'm Cindy, and welcome to Pearls of Liberty, July 7th, 2012. It's 7/7/12. So if you like numbers, those are all pretty good.
Sounds like a very happy number.
It's a happy number. But this is not very happy news, and you probably have already heard that Obama plans to sign a United Nations treaty concerning arms control on the 27th of July. And the discussions are going on between now and then, and presumably at the end of the discussions they will have an agreement and he will sign it, and your right to own firearms will be just that much.
I believe that part of that is all modern rifles are semi-automatics, and people that don't know weapons think that semi-automatic sounds like it's some kind of a terrorist thing, but that's just a modern rifle, folks, and that's the kind of thing that they're talking about outlawing. This is crazy. This is like, okay, you want to shoot a deer, we'll hand you your one bullet at a time for your single loader, and then maybe you can shoot a deer, but don't ever think about having something you could defend yourself in case you needed to against a weapon that would be comparable to the police. Look, the founders had the Second Amendment for a reason, and that reason was for the average citizen to defend himself against the armed forces of the day. And that means that citizens should be as well armed as government, and don't come with me about tanks and nuclear weapons, because that's not it. We're just talking about single individuals here being able to protect your home, and if people are armed, then whenever there's resistance, bullies back off. This is the point. The Second Amendment is intended against bullies, and especially government bullies, so we don't want that right to be taken from us, and I don't think that'll ever happen in America, but only because people will resist it. So that's what we need to do.
M. Scott Peck, in his book People of the Lie, wrote that the only thing truly evil people understand is a show of force. So if we want to maintain our boundaries, we sometimes need to use a show of force. And if you're using a show of force, you better have at least equal force to the guy who's coming against you, unless you're David with a slingshot and you can overcome Goliath. We also this week wanted to mention the European LIBOR scandal, the interest rate manipulation that favors speculators over those who wish to save their money.
Yeah, this is being covered up. This is major news, and what it is that central banks of the world have been colluding for a long time, at least 10 years, and probably longer, to keep interest rates low. Does that sound like a good thing? Yeah, to most people that aren't educated economically, that sounds like a good thing. They want to keep interest rates low. That means money is cheap. That means that helps the little guy, right? Wrong. Keeping interest rates low actually favors the big money men who want cheap money for speculative investments. And if they have to pay a price of interest on their money, higher interest, then they won't use the money for speculation. There won't be these booms and busts. There won't be these needs for bailouts, because when money's expensive, higher interest rate, the speculators are not empowered. The speculators are the crooks, the robber barons of the day. Guess what? One of the best speculative investments is these days? Congressmen. They're surprisingly cheap. The cheaper you make money, the easier it is to buy off congressmen. And seriously, folks, that's what they do. That's what these mega corporations that hire their lobbyists do with the money that the central banks that fund them create out of nothing. They buy congressmen who are insured of getting a cushy retirement or re-election fund, and the cycle just goes on. So cheap money is not good for the little person. You're empowering the oppressor with cheap money. What you want is money that rewards the saver, rewards the frugal person who is careful with how they utilize their finances. That's your average American. I think it was, I can't remember, I shouldn't say that, there was one economist that knew at the time of one of the last recessions, I think it was after Nixon or something, that they needed to keep interest rate high. It might have been William Volcker or somebody like that. But that was wisdom, and that kind of wisdom has been lost nowadays. And people are so dumbed down, they think that cheap money is good. It's not.
We got some of our information from a Max Kaiser video, and it can be seen on YouTube, and we're including the link in our comments. So if you want to know a little bit more about that, take a look at the video and study it, because this is, after all, the banking cabal are at the very center of the conflicts in which we find ourselves. And we do find ourselves in conflicts, but the White Knights continue to say the cavalry is coming. So Don found an interesting blog regarding believing Drake and Benjamin Fulford and others, even though their dates where they claim something's going to happen pass.
Well, yeah, you don't want to be a sucker, and you don't want to be played, but you don't want to become jaundiced either. And this is a fine line that we need to walk. We really, for our spiritual empowerment, need to continue to have hope, because hope deferred or disillusion makes the heart sick. But you want to have wise hope that's tempered with realism. So some of the stuff about Drake, my credibility rating of him has gone down. But he does seem to be sincere. However, he may be pre-programmed to be spouting something that is lifting people up only to let them down. To me, Benjamin Fulford is a hard one not to take seriously because of his deep financial background and his connections and his obvious sincerity. And now he's backing off of dates, and he's saying that nobody in his inner circle ever promoted dates, but he was given them from outside, and now he's not going to do that anymore. Okay, I think there's a guy with wisdom. But some of these dates may have been intended to pump people up and then let them down. And some suckers got given a line, and they gave it, and it got out. And the truth is that people are disillusioned now. But I have to agree with Fulford that you do have to recognize that the good guys are now winning. We do see progress on multiple fronts. You do see the power of the dark cabal beginning to wane in several major areas. The BRICS nations are emerging as a new banking power that is able to stand up to the intimidation tactics of the cabal, and all of the lies are being exposed. Things about the gold reserves being tiny in the Anglo-American banking empire compared to the Asian empire, where they're much larger, etc. So good things are happening, and be encouraged, and don't get on this emotional roller coaster ride. Read things critically, but look for opportunities to encourage yourself that there is hope for this planet. And personally, as a Christian, I believe in an overcoming bride. I've said that before. That's part of my foundation. I don't expect Jesus to come and just beam us up and get us out of this horrible situation. I believe that's wrong teaching that gives people a false sense of hope. I believe that we're supposed to be about occupying till he comes, taking ground from the enemy, and that's happening. And doesn't mean that somebody has to be calling themselves a Christian to do that. There are many good people on the side of light that don't like religion one bit, and hey, I can definitely partner with those guys because I don't either.
Absolutely. It does become more and more difficult to comprehend what's going on, what to believe, what not to believe. And I was thinking about that when Jesus said, it can be found in Matthew 7, beginning with verse 13. Enter by the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and there are many who go in by it. Because narrow is the gate and difficult is the way which leads to life, and there are few who find it. So it's not impossible to find the way, but it's difficult to find the way. So we're prayerfully ourselves trying to find the way. And we've talked before about a small amount of error can lead us to a very wrong place, like a divergence in the road that's small at the source. You follow it out and you end up very much in the wrong place. And Ken Cousins, whom we listen to on the radio on morningliberty.com, and who we personally know to be a man of integrity, on Morning Liberty yesterday morning stated that if you have top-down leadership, it only takes approximately 5 years for the group, the government, to be impacted in a negative way. If you have top-down leadership and the leaders are corrupt, 5 years. So that's not a whole lot. And Don has some things that he would like to say about, out of his great understanding of systems and how they work, about the nature of government.
Yeah, about the 5-year thing, I don't think that's hard and fast a rule. That's kind of maybe a rule of thumb, but I think definitely if corruption isn't exposed, it'll take longer than 5 years, and if corruption is exposed, it'll take less than 5 years. So that's not, I don't want to ever say, well, 5 years isn't up, I'm just going to stay away. I think people should be involved in exposing corruption in government and top-down style leadership. Any kind of bullying tactics should be exposed and called out for what they are. Otherwise, there tends to develop a culture that permits that, allows that, thinks it's normal. We've got a lot of sociopaths in government, and we're conditioned to accept that. If we don't, as freedom-loving people, learn to recognize sociopaths and to expose them, then, and that takes a lot of courage, and there's strength in numbers, because they can go after you one by one pretty viciously. But teaching people how to recognize leaders that have a sociopathic bent, I think, is really important right now in this day, because we're used to it, and we're going to repeat the pattern if we don't actively seek to expose that and recognize it. The other thing I wanted to say about government in general is that people are so disillusioned with government that to many people anarchy is very, very appealing. And I'll have to say, to me too. But for people that are not familiar with some teachers who are becoming popular now, espousing some of the theories of anarchy. One is Stefan Molyneux, very intelligent Canadian man, has a lot of videos on YouTube, and a lot of people in the liberty movement highly respect him, me included. That's the whole idea of anarchy is becoming very popular, but I want to say that it's an ideal that is probably not achievable, because people need to be able to band together to stand strong against the bullying tactics of those that would come against liberty-loving people. And those that talk about anarchy are mostly into just individual free contract and no government whatsoever. Then this whole idea of government being able to be formed to protect the people is really mistrusted these days because we've seen it fail so badly with the United States. That was the original vision of the United States. That's why I would encourage people to go back there, study the founders, what they taught, what they believed, and find out for yourself where that got off and where government started being a top-down controlling organization rather than an outward-facing organization that is protecting the people's rights. And here's the key. I believe that that point was when, instead of becoming a true republic, America became a democratic republic. Whenever you become a democratic republic, you give your rights, your power of attorney over to a representative who is going to make decisions on your behalf. You've given up your sovereignty. And the alternative to that is not anarchy. And anarchy in itself isn't bad, don't get me wrong. I just don't think we're ready for it. Anarchy, as I understand it, is actually something that can be blessed by God. Take the book of Judges, for example. In the book of Judges, it said every man did what was right in his own eyes, and in various periods God raised up judges for 20, sometimes 40 years, and that judge became the arbiter of justice. And that was a God-ordained thing. God raised it up. And then when the people wanted a king like the other nations, God, through the prophet Samuel, said to the people, you will learn what an evil thing you do when you ask for a king. So this idea that a highly organized government is somehow pleasing to God is just plain biblically not true. And the period of Judges is a good demonstration of a period of anarchy. And that doesn't mean chaos. That doesn't mean everybody going around stealing and murdering. It means that there is no centralized law. And that does favor individual autonomy and freedom. So what I want to point out is that the way to get there, to that heightened individual freedom, you have to have in our day and age, some way to protect a group of freedom-loving people from the bullies. And the way to learn through history how to get there is to go back and study the founding of the United States and realize where we got off from the idea of a true republic to the idea of a democratic republic. And so I want to leave that for the homework assignment for this week.
Yeah, I get homework assignments. So that pretty much sums up what we wanted to say. And just to emphasize, we both do have a concern, particularly for Christians. And, you know, we're Christians, but because of how we've been taught as Christians, as a group, we're so easy to mislead. And we've been manipulated for so long, and I think we even talked about, that was one of the things we talked about last week, just how the Christians were voiced. Maybe we didn't talk about it, maybe I wrote about it or something. The Christians somehow, in the 60s, we had a social consciousness. Martin Luther King Jr. was a Christian, spoke out of the platform of the church. Most Christians at that time felt had a social conscience. And something happened in the 80s. We got all turned around so that the only social issues that impacted the church were things that would polarize terribly, like gay marriage, abortion. Other than that, we were encouraged to become not peace people, who historically the church, I'm not referring to the Roman church, but believers in Jesus have been people of peace. Jesus said, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God." And somehow, by manipulating us with fear and stories about Israel and beating the drum, most Christians have become convinced that war is good and a social conscience is bad. And people, you know, we have to wake up. We have to see how we've been manipulated. And God does not call us to obey evil leaders.
And look into the foundation of the nation of Israel. I'll say that again too. And the people there are not even descendants of Abraham, over 90%. So maybe there's a little manipulation going on there. Maybe. Just think about it.
More homework?
Mm-hmm.
And you want to give your final parting thought?
Oh, my parting thought is think for yourself. That's why I gave you the homework assignment.